Welcome to the Strategic Life Podcast, episode 94, Budget and Financing, with your host, Coach Mario.
Dr. Mario.
Along with Frank.
Time to adjust those checkbooks, y'all. Unless you write that check like once a year. So like Foxmore Studios.
Do we write checks anymore? Rare.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, your PTA, if you're in school, they might just take checks. There's a couple of.
If I am donating to a nonprofit or if I'm making my church tithes, I write out a check. Otherwise, this service will charge the fees to the organization.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So in those cases, yes.
Well, the cool thing is that a lot of places that do nonprofits and stuff, they'll say they'll have the option, but you have to select it. Is it okay if
you add the fee,
if you want to
pay
pay the transfer fee, so they don't have to, which I get. Cool. So budget and financing.
Money.
We're all looking at. What are we talking about, Frank? I mean, and why is this important? We're coming into the end of the year where people tend to overextend themselves,
splurge.
I believe statistically, I saw some money stuff off on the financials of the news of credit card usage being so much more than ever lately.
Correct.
And the interest rates are
Higher than ever.
I mean,
thank you.
Credit cards as well. Is that a thing that's gone up too?
Yes, credit cards go based upon the Federal Reserve interest rate.
Which is like a bajillion.
So I'll give you an example. If you go get a new credit card, most likely it's either 24 to 26% interest on that money.
Yay.
What that means, and it was at 21 last year. So you have an idea. It went up, 3 to 5 interest points. So yeah, it's heavy.
Very.
It's heavy.
Yikes.
And we'll start there, I guess. Credit cards.
Go for it.
Credit cards are cash people let you borrow. That's what it is. We just don't see it because we don't see the green paper, but that's ultimately what it is. You tell Visa, hey, let me borrow $1,000, and you go spend it. So you go buy, whether it's shoes or pay your bills or your car, rent, whatever you do with the money, it's still money. There's 3 types of lending, right? There's cash-based lending, which is like a credit card, or, if you're a business, like an MCA loan, or things like that, where they'll give you actual cash, the working capital cash, right? Like that's cash. And that's the most expensive type of lending. But that's not stuff that they'll teach you anywhere else but here.
That's right.
Or Amp4 Business Solutions. And cash-based lending is the most expensive. Another way you can do cash-based lending is settlement loans, lottery winnings, insurance claims, things like that, where there's cash involved, a lump sum of money. That goes normally right now between 25 to 45% on that. So, hey, I need to borrow, $20,000 as, startup capital for a business. A lot of places will do it. 35, 40, 45% interest, and, they'll take a cut right up front. The next type of lending that you'll hear about is equipment-based lending. Hey, I need to buy a car, a truck, a trailer, furniture, that kind of stuff. That's at a lower spectrum. That ends at 25. And then the last one is anything with an asset equity lending, like real estate, where right now, again, and even that's high. You're at 7, 8%, but the interest rate is so much lower than the rest. Why? Because if you don't pay it, guess what? They keep it. And they can resell it. There's a market for that, as opposed to equipment lending where it's already used. It has depreciation. It has its scratches on it. You can't resell that.
Got it.
So this time of year,
credit cards are getting worked.
This time of year, credit cards are getting worked. And again, if paying attention to the last, 2 minutes worth of, schooling that we're doing here, that's the most expensive. And that's why people end up in debt. And because, they'll grab that and, they're letting me roll over the balance somewhere. Yeah. Now you're paying double on that. So.
And people typically, correct me if I'm wrong, this is more your cup of tea than mine, pay the minimum on those credit cards. And so as far as longevity is concerned, if you have a $2,000 credit card and you just pay the minimum, how many years will it take you to pay that off?
So you have an idea why it's a horrible idea to use those things, and why it's a horrible idea to pay the minimum is because the minimum is just the interest. Hey, I'm letting, and it sounds easy. So you're paying my fee for letting you borrow my money. That's what interest is. That's the street term of definition. When you think about it like that, you're like, oh. So when you pay the minimum, you're just paying that interest. You're not paying towards what you actually owe. The next step that these guys do, they're very smart. They say, well, it compounds. But again, very difficult for you to read that in there. So what happens? You pay the minimum, let's say $100 you borrow, and you pay the $20, and you just pay the $20. You're still at $100. Because again, the interest on that is what? 24%. So they tell you, oh, just pay the $24. And you're like, oh, good. I only have, $76 to pay. No, you still have your $100 because your points are 24. So try not to pay them. Try not to use it, but if you have to or you want to, for whatever reason, try to pay it off. Hey, I'm going to take out a credit card. I can afford this month to spend $200. Then use the credit card for $200, pay it down to $0. That's it. So
let's say this. If someone's already in trouble, and maybe even at this point they've already extended themselves again. Let's say they have 3 or 4, because I mean, you hear commercials and they'll be like, consolidate this and do that. What is the best solution for someone who's already maybe in trouble? Let's say the pandemic, they lost some stuff, and even that now they went, hey, these people always go out. They've done, they've already spent the money. What's the best option for someone who's already in credit card
This
trouble?
is going to sound very harsh, but I want you to take it with a grain of salt. And please, for our listeners, make sure that you start learning these things. Responsibility and bills are for people who have things forced upon them. An example, I have bills. You hear that a lot. No, but my bills, but my bills, but my bills. That's somebody who is overextending themselves. If you're thinking about that, so you have to be. The first thing you got to say is, if you have bills, if you have things coming up, if you have past dues, that means you're overextending yourself. So the way you speak about it, the way your philosophy is on money, is incorrect. How do we fix that? You have income and expenses. So, hey, I have expenses. That's more of a lifestyle choice. That's more of, hey, for example, I don't have bills. I have expenses. I have rent on an office. That's an expense. If I look at it as a bill, then I have bill. I'm adding pressure. So speak to yourself correctly when it comes to your financials. And I know it's going to sound really bad, but the best way I can dumb it down, responsibility and bills are usually for people who are overextending themselves, who have a poor mindset. If you look at it about as far as like lifestyle and expenses, income and expenses, even if you don't own a business, you don't have to. But if you look at it as far as what I have coming in versus to what I need to spend, right? Not bill, not what's being forced upon me. That's more of a wealth mindset. So that's step 1. Step 2, budget. Hey man, you know what you make. Don't overextend yourself. No, but the lifestyle. No, but I want to go out. No, but my friends. No, but I like this person. No, but I want to be up on the latest trends in fashion. You're sacrificing your peace of mind for those things. Again, another part, things that we say, your environment will spend your money faster than you will. You already owe next month's mortgage or next month's rent. Before you make $1 today, that's already debt you have. Your car payment. Right? Oh, I have a credit card at Macy's. I have a birthday party. I have holidays. And I have to buy this person this, and this. I have to keep up this lifestyle for this person, this, and this. Your environment is spending money faster than you can produce it. So you should be able to buy those things with money you already made, not money that you're borrowing with Visa, not money you're borrowing with MasterCard, not money you're borrowing from wherever else you're getting it.
Okay. When you talk about budget, and perhaps a little bit beyond the scope of the podcast, but in general terms, what would be some guidelines? Some folks say save 20%, some say save 10%. What are your parameters? What should be kind of like an emergency fund?
Save as much as you can.
Okay.
Now, for some people, that could be a 5% thing, right? Hey, I all I can save is $10. Okay, that's fine. That's more than enough, right? If you save $5 every week, you're gonna have $500. You do that for a couple years, you got $1,000, and most likely you're good. Hey, I could save only $100. Again, if you do that every week, that's $5,000. So it's up to you. The best advice I can tell you as far as being about a budget, you have to be disciplined to it. Hey, I'm going to save $5, and those $5 can never be touched. Right. Hey, I'm saving. Again, second mistake people do with their money. They don't have a goal for it. Hey, my goal is to have an extravagant Christmas. Okay, then your mindset should already be on next year's Christmas. Right. And that's a fine goal to have. That's fine. Hey, my goal is to purchase a home. My goal is to buy a new car. My goal is to move out. My goal is to provide more for the family and kid. Okay, then have a goal and can't budge from that. Yeah. So you could budget all you want, but if that budget doesn't have a purpose, you're never going to get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you also have to plan smart as well. I mean, there's like Frank said, there's things that you're going to have to owe, such as phone bill. I mean, and even in some ways, like the phone is so much more than it used to be, right? Nowadays, it's your, some people's computers and things like that of that nature. But you have to plan ahead. If you know that the last time you got your car serviced, if you've been paying attention to that check engine light you've had on for the last 10 months, but if you were told your cabin filter's dirty, your brakes are low, both in front and back, your tires are at 20%, that's already also money that's gone. Yeah. And I know for me, that's one of the most painful things in the world is buying tires. Yeah. As much as I might look at newer performance ones and things like that, because I used to be into cars a lot, like, it's almost like I have to pay for, it's almost just like another car payment. It's like you have to pay for this thing. Otherwise, you cannot drive the car. Or otherwise, it's a danger to be driving with, some bald tires there. But that's another thing you have to be looking out for. Things, unexpected things, which are very common. I mean, especially if you know that your car's 10 or 15 years old already. You have to have a budget for those kind of things. Otherwise, that unexpected thing will happen. Yes. And so you have to plan accordingly as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that you have to do this forever. Hey, I'm going to jump on this strict financial, habit. No, you don't. Honestly, you can do it 3 to 6 months, and even that's a long time. You can do it for a few months, 2-3 months, and you'll see the success. Here, your average income in the United States is, call it $52K, right? Let's say minus, let's get crazy, 25% for taxes, health insurance, retirement plan, right? That's 39 divided by 2. In 6 months, you should be able to save 20 racks. That's $20,000 you could save in 6 months. That's a big chunk of change. And again, that's your average, 52. No, Frank, but I have other bills and expenses and things like that, and it's impossible for me to save. Okay, then scale that back down. Hey, get rid of the Beamer. Get rid of the Benz. Go get yourself something a little more affordable. But no, we want to drive around in the BMW first. When I started Anfra, I was borrowing vehicles, and you guys can attest to this. I was going through the state in what? A Greyhound bus. I was paying the $39.99 to do the 8 stops, and I would go visit clients throughout the states like that. It would take 10 hours just to get to Central Florida. You have to do those things. You have to, and I know it sounds extreme, but you have to do those things. Again, we were borrowing a car. And then finally, when I saved up a little bit and I go, okay, I have cash flow now that I can afford a monthly payment on a vehicle. I got a 2017 Honda Accord used. Right, I was paying $300 for it a month with insurance and everything. It was like $350. Yeah. So you can't go outside of your mean. That needs to be a bigger goal. So, but if you don't have that type of mindset, you're never gonna get there. If you're very happy with your job but you don't want to switch it, that's fine. But you need to save money. Save money. Stop spending on other stuff. Oh, the new iPhone came out. Who cares, man? I still have the old one. It answers the same phone calls. Yeah, I have the same conversations. So until you get to that wealth point, hey, now I'm making money where I can't afford these other things, then you buy it, then you get it. Good advice: if you can't buy it cash, you can't afford it. Don't do it. Hey, I want a $20,000 car. You better have $20K in the bank account. Then go finance it.
That's good advice, and I think it's also worth mentioning that there's a distinction that needs to be made when individuals talk about their priorities. Some people live over here getting their dreams, their wants. They're on the wants list and they overlook the priorities. You got to satisfy those needs first, those immediate priorities. If you've got food to put on the table, rent, those kinds of things, those are must-haves. These over here, nice to have. People would love to have the Beamer. So when I see people that have these new expensive Beamers and they live in these apartments,
the old efficiency.
The old efficiency is like, okay, there's somehow a disconnect, unless you had it before, right?
And that's fine too. Here, something else we got to get over. Our living is very expensive, right? Our lifestyles choices can be very expensive. And I have these conversations with entrepreneurs. Like I had to move back in with my parents when I started this, and there's like a part of it, like, the shame and oh my God, how am I supposed to attract somebody with that? Man, what I learned through that process, I'm not going to forfeit. I'm not going to add chaos to my life to prove my independence. So if you have to go and move back in with mommy, daddy, whoever it is, if you have to get a roommate, if you got to put your tail between your legs, that's fine. But make sure you're doing it for yourself. Make sure you're doing it for something better. Yeah. right? Hey, I'm doing it because I over leveraged myself and I spent it all on alcohol and cars I can't afford. That's useless. Hey, I moved back in and I'm doing something. Why? Because I need to reset my life. I just got divorced. I just lost my job, whatever it is, but I'm going to take a step forward. If you're going to do that to catapult yourself, right? That whole arrow thing, how does an arrow go forward? You pull it back, right? If you're going to do that, it's the right move. And don't let anybody peer pressure. Oh, you had to go back. Yeah, I did. Get rid of that person. Get rid of them. Sorry, Bobby. If you're not going to be here to support and help me out, get out of here and let it go.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. I mean, you have to, for many things, scaling back can look different in many ways, but I know we've mentioned it in other podcasts before as well, but it might be time to pull the bank statement out and see exactly where you're spending all your money. Frank had, in another time where he spoke about this, Frank said the number one thing is always going to be food. Most people are wasting money on food and entertainment specifically. But if you're trying to budget and you're trying to save money, it might. So for some people, they need to see these things added up and put there. I mean, you could probably get some free software somewhere. If not, you're a big boy, you can add numbers. But if you put all the food you spend on money and all the food you spend on, whatever it is that you spend your money on, and kind of see those numbers in your face, you might look at it a little differently. Because you might think of it as being something innocent here and innocent there. But at the end of the month, you're like, whoa, $130. And I complain about the $130 that I send to AT&T or Verizon or whatever. You don't realize that maybe you're, and again, it's oversaid and overused. That Starbucks you're spending can easily be, but there is many Starbucks in your life.
Yeah.
Do you need Starbucks? Do you need Netflix? Do you need Hulu? Do you need Disney Plus? Do you need XYZ? I used to jokingly look at this app that would an ad that would come on Instagram and it would be like, look at all this money on subscriptions, and it's actually funny because it is that bad. There's so many things that are automated that you wouldn't know if you don't look at your bank account. Mm-hmm. That every month they're just taking a few bucks, and those bucks are just adding up, and you don't realize it. So it might be time to dive back into those bank statements and really see where your money's going. Add them all up and stare at them in the face.
The hardest advice,
let them look at you.
The hardest advice to give is to yourself, right? And I think and that's a beautiful thing about this podcast. We're pretty much doing that, and we're living proof that we take our own advice, and we're sharing it with you guys. But that's ultimately the hardest mirror to look at, and that's the bank statement. Why? Because you're gonna see things there that are very scary. You're gonna see a purchase for a gift, an example for a relationship that should have ended, right? And when you sit there and you're like, man, I just spent $500 on this chick I'm not happy with, and it's just now it's cemented. Now it's there. Hey man, I just bought clothes for a party I didn't have fun at, and then I can't return this shirt. $100 for a shirt to go impress people that you're not happy with. Things like that, man, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think the best advice that you gave today, and we've all agreed, is if you don't have the money, don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Don't put your plastic in it.
Yeah, man. And this isn't coming. Well, it's easy for Frank to say, no. This has been passed down. If you can't afford it cash, don't finance it. If you can't buy it twice, no, that's hardcore. That's a Jay-Z line. Relax, man. That's hip hop. But if you can't save your way to being able to purchase it cash, don't buy it. If you can't get the car, if all you make in a year is $50,000, you cannot get a $60,000 car.
Yeah, I heard a car salesman tell me that once. A car salesman actually said to me, he's like, if you can't pay it off in 5 years, then you shouldn't be buying it.
Can I tell you?
Because I overheard someone in the other corner said they were doing some financing for like 8 years. I'm like, you guys do 8 years? And he goes, how do you think all these people can afford these? There was a
dualies, the trucks.
The dualies, the trucks. Yeah. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. How else are we going to sell them?
Car financing can go up to 20 years, to tell you the truth.
That is. Well, I mean, I can understand buying commercial rigs and trucks.
No. I'm talking the Nissan Altimas and the Toyota
20 years.
They can do up to 20 years.
Yeah, but it was.
And let me tell you, there's a reason it used to be, go get a loan, come to the dealer. Now it's what? Oh, no. Honda financing. No. Nissan financing. Why? Because they want you to do that. Like, you'll never pay that car off. Right? The name of the game, I'll teach you something cool. We went from 80s, 90s to, I hope this person pays this off. the new way to do business for those guys, and I know because I'm in the room with those guys, it's I hope they don't pay it off. Right? Hey, I'm happy if he puts a $5,000 down payment and in 6 months we repossess the vehicle. I'll keep the $5,000, the 5 months worth of payments, and then I'll resell the car for the same amount. They don't care. Same thing with your house. I hope it forecloses. Right? This guy came out $20,000, put a house down payment, can't afford it. We'll repossess it. We'll keep the car. We'll keep the house. We'll resell it. Right? That's why that asset bending. Well, how come my credit card's 20% but the house is 7%? That's why, because they can't repossess the shirt you spent at Macy's with the Visa, but they can't. True. But they can't repossess the watch. They can't repossess the car. They can repossess the house. They can repossess the truck. So they don't care. Take it out for 20 years. Walk into a dealer. Hey, I want a 20-year car payment. Sure, let's go. Why? Because that interest rate will be there. You'll never pay that car off. You'll pay that car 20 times over.
Yikes!
The key is
scary stuff.
Plan, strategy.
Yeah.
If you don't have the money, don't buy it.
Here's the thing, man. That the game's not easy, but it's fair. If you learn these things, like everybody gets it, but you just got to know these things, and you have to be disciplined with yourself. You can't put yourself in those positions. Right. Now during the holidays, more than ever, you're gonna have that pressure. You're gonna turn on the TV, and it's buy this, buy that, and this sale, and look at this, and oh my God, I wanted that, and it's on sale. You got to ignore that. And if you really want to live a fulfilling life, you got to ignore that completely. It has to be about who am I spending the holiday with? Who am I spending this with?
Those commercials are the best.
You know? Yeah.
They get those psychotic people like, hey, honey, I made a huge financial decision without you. Here's a bow on it. You're welcome.
You can do it. You can do it, but again, like right, and it's usually the $60,000-$80,000 vehicle,
right?
And then they have this big house in the back, right? The what is it, like the McAllister's home, right? In Home Alone,
the Home Alone house.
Yes.
Right, how did these guys afford this house?
And the first class tickets to Paris for the whole family.
Correct. People live like that, but they're smart, they're savvy. It took them 3, 5, 10 years to be able to have that financial freedom.
Right.
Can it be done? Sure. Should you do it? Sure. If you have the means and you want to buy an $80,000 car for somebody, have fun. Go for it. Why not? But make sure that doesn't kill your monthly payment. Make sure that you can afford the $80K up front. Like, hey, no, I can't do that. Hey, run away. Don't do it.
Run.
So.
Wow. Excellent.
Amazing.
So, having said that, if you're budgeting for the end of the year, you're budgeting still for Christmas, or you're just trying to get things together to start your new year right, these are some basic tips. Obviously, go through your bank statement. Don't extend over your means. Stop using the credit cards. Like, especially don't treat yourself for bringing it down so much to then just bring it right back up.
Yeah. Don't
do that to yourself. Don't pay it off and go, wow, okay, let me just start with this and that. You got there for a reason. It probably took a little bit to get it there, or even just to get that that mindset where I'm just gonna make a large payment and not use it. I mean, some people will say just cut them up or whatnot. So it's nice to keep one for emergencies if you need it, but just stop using those there. Anything else?
No, know who you're giving the gifts to. That's the most important thing, man. And that's personal experience, and you guys know it. I used to be an extravagant gift giver, and that used to be my love language. I used to try to win people over with that. And I lied to myself. I would sit there and say stuff like, oh, well, I'm doing this to show that I'm paying attention, and I'm doing this, because I want to provide the best. And there's a part of you that has that ego, that pride. Oh, I want to be high up in the hierarchy of the family tree. Man, and that'll fall on you fast, and you'll realize that it was quicksand. That your foundation for the things you want were extremely faulty. So let go of your ego, let go of your pride. Stop trying to prove things to people, and just be yourself. And then that's enough of a gift at any moment. Trust me.
Sound financial
and if not,
advice.
again, if that's not enough, if people get mad at you because you showed up empty-handed, walk away. Find yourself new friends.